Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And here we are.
Wow,
Rumble,
it actually works.
yes, sometimes Rumble takes like a few seconds to get its butt moving, so it's good to have like a little intro.
Well, it seems like Rumble and I have more in common than I care to admit. But thank you for having me tonight.
Hey, this is your thing tonight. You're in charge.
I know this is a little weird. I haven't hosted a show now in 4 years. I've been guests. I've been honored of being guests on you, BZ, and obviously in the past I've been guests on other people's shows. But yeah, hosting after all of these years, and I got to tell you what, Jersey. So for the people listening in Spaces or wherever. Jersey Joe said to me earlier today, we were jacking around talking, and he goes, you want to do X Spaces tonight? That'll be fun. That'll be different, right? And I says, yeah, why not? I was sick all last week. I have no voice left. Why don't we do something where I'm going to be talking a lot? That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
And I agree to it like a genius that I am. And it was great. You set everything up. You did all the technology. Like, this is what it's like to have a producer again. I haven't had a producer in years. Fantastic. Except you just dumped on me. Well, this is your show. You do what you want to do. Well, no. When we talked about this, it was kind of a joint venture. Like, I thought we both have some ideas. You're like, how do we want to do it? And I said, it would be cool if we just kind of like hit reset, click through some stories on X, because the majority of this show is on Spaces. So let's do that, and then see what comes about, and we'll talk about it, because that could be fun, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, great. What do you want to talk about? Well, I just told you what I wanted to talk about, Joe.
Exactly. But for those that don't know, we're calling this X-Roulette, as in like X.com roulette, and we're just going to go through Twitters and pick out some fun shit to talk about. But you see, I was giving you some respect. I know you're not the elder, but you're the elder in SHR. You're one of the founders, so I got to give you a little respect there.
Joe, these days I feel elderly, so well, let's start right off the bat. So 2 hours ago, CBS News on Twitter did a post about the presidential race in North Carolina has shifted from lean Republican to toss up as VP Harris narrows the gap with former Trump, according to Cook Political Report with Amy Walter. Here we go into the polls, right? Remind me again, wasn't Hillary at this point up like 98% or some ridiculous amount at this point in time?
Something like that.
There were some polls showing that, right? I understand.
What is it? She had a 97% chance of winning, some polls said.
Yes. But I understand the validity of having polls to kind of track where trends are. But as we learned with the original Trump election, and I think last time a little bit too, a lot of people, and I don't know if this is as prominent now as it was then. A lot of people aren't being honest about who and what they'll vote for. No. We're running into this, I think, the Kamala effect, where Kamala, however you're supposed to. I know I'm going to get yelled at and canceled. Where people don't want to admit that they don't want to vote for her. And the reason is much like under Barack Obama, there is a certain almost social justice aspect to quote unquote voting for her. Where it's like, well, you have to vote for the woman who'd be the first female person of color and first female president. So how could you say you not want to do that? There are people who will get shamed into that, and will not answer as a result of that shame. So it's, to me, polls are only as good as they have proven to be, which has not been historically great, if we're being honest.
Well, for one thing, I'm mispronouncing Harris's last name. I mean, if they're going to cancel, they now have to cancel Bill Clinton because he mispronounced her name too during the DNC convention. The polls are. There's too many polls that are political now. There's a few of them out that are still nonpartisan. They try to stay down the middle, but too many of them are in the pocket. Good. Yeah, that's I never can say that damn name out.
I know. So you know what? The only reason I can remember Rasmussen is I grew up with somebody whose last name was Rasmussen. If I did not know that growing up, I would never, ever, ever, ever be able to say that on a regular basis. And
Uh,
as funny as I talk, you talk funnier than I do, so you really have a hard time with pronunciations.
oh, okay.
What?
The one with the Boston accent. All right, we want to go there. I
We
lost
might
my
as well
Jersey accent. I got out of
we might as well get
Florida.
out of the way early, right? You
Uh,
say so it's so funny you say you lose the accent. You lose the accent the same way I am, right? Something will trigger it,
yep.
and all of a sudden it's back. And we were talking earlier today a couple times, like I heard it come hot and heavy out of your mouth.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, don't tell me you lost your friggin' accent, Joe. Cut the shit.
Uh, it's also like my buddy will turn around and talk to me. And he's like, "Where the fuck Jersey Joe go? Don't you come nowadays?" And then something will happen. He was like, "There he is."
It's not too calm. And I tell people this because I've actually been accused of that too. It's more calculated. Um
I don't let as many
eh,
things bother me, or I try not to.
Well, you have to pick and choose your
Yep.
battles, right? When you're younger, and all you young people out there gather around and sit and listen to the old men talk, back in 1940, blah blah blah. No, but when you're younger, you don't mind fighting everything because you have the energy to do it, right? As you
Yeah.
get older, you have less energy,
Yeah.
um, and so you have to pick and choose where you're going to put that energy into. For me, I don't put it in anywhere really. I really just hold on to the big one all the time, waiting for it to come out. But
Okay.
so
What are we doing? Is Sanford and Son here?
yeah, that's the big one, Elizabeth. So as we get back to the talk about polls,
Yes.
um,
And I
you
heard
know,
you're an expert at it.
yes, I am an expert at polls on them. It's really how I got through most of my 20s paying the bills was on the dance poll. And if that doesn't make somebody lose their dinner, I don't know what will.
Oh no! Oh, I do have something that's better that'll make them lose dinner.
So let's go to your next chat roulette choice.
We'll,
You put
we'll, we'll
your
jump back
number.
to the polls in a minute, but this one kind of fits into your conversation. All right. So a Twitter that I came across earlier was, "I'd rather blank than vote for Kamala Harris."
No, wait. I want anyone who's listening. I know there's somebody in your chat here, and there's some other. I want people to tell themselves. You don't necessarily have to put it out in the ether. You don't have to put it on. I want you to tell yourself what the answer to that question is.
All right. Now, this Twitter or X, um, she had two good answers. One was, "I'd rather wear a used thong of Rosie O'Donnell on my face than vote for Kamala Harris." That one right there about made me lose my lunch. And it gets
Oh
worse.
man.
And it gets worse.
So that's one of those things where my first question is, how could it get worse, Joe?
Let me find it again. Because she actually put two of them in there. "I'd rather floss my teeth with a G-string of Whoopi Goldberg than vote for Kamala Harris. Guaranteed, Whoopi's smells like ass crack on a
Oh,
110-degree day."
oh, see, you're right. That is better than me dancing on the pole. Um,
Yes.
so
Oh,
I want people to answer that question themselves. You don't necessarily have to share. If you want to share, I'm
uh,
at two against tyranny on Twitter, but you don't have to share. If you want to just vomit into your mouth in
yes,
your own
go right ahead.
privacy, you have every right in the world to do that. Um, oh God,
Yes. I
this
love her
actually,
answers. I love her answers, but
yes, it's pretty hysterical. Actually, I love so one of the things I love about X more so now than ever. There is a lot of everyone knows what shit posting is, but there's a lot of comedic posting.
yes.
X back in the day, there used to be a lot more just mean shit posting when it was Twitter. The shit posting now, yes, you could argue that that's mean. but it's also comedy based. It's pretty friggin' funny. There's a
Yes.
lot of funny shit that is all over Spaces and X now that was not there before, and I applaud plenty of people. I have a lot of people that I follow that are pretty goddamn hysterical. I don't know if you follow Chuck Callisto. Do you follow Chuck Callisto?
I'm not sure.
Um, he's been on, gosh, forever. He's a social media strategist, but he's really been news based for a long time, and he's usually pretty accurate. Apparently, breaking in the last 30 minutes, Brazilian Supreme Court minister summons Elon Musk. He has 24 hours to respond, or he will be banned. Or I'm sorry, X will be banned in Brazil. Didn't X already?
They left. Well, they
Right.
shut down their office and said, "Screw you."
Right, and rightfully so.
I don't know what some of these countries are thinking nowadays.
Well, and actually, this I was going to talk about what we're seeing with the director of Telegram getting arrested. What we're seeing in the UK. In the UK today, an 11-year-old child was arrested for hateful speech online. I saw that earlier today.
Did you see the one about Germany?
No.
They're trying to subpoena Gab for information about a user because he called a politician fat.
Fat.
And
Yeah.
as I put on there, guess what? She's fat. And you want to know something? So am I.
That was exactly my point earlier,
I'm
right?
fat.
I put out, I said, look, there's a lot of things I see people say that I personally wouldn't say. That doesn't mean they don't have the right to say it. How they phrase certain things, terminologies that they use that I just don't use. But they have a right to say it as a human being. And we've talked about this in the past, way before any of this stuff started, years ago, when people would bring up, the Nazis, or you bring up certain hate speech or whatever. And I said, look, when you start putting bans on this stuff, you force it underground. When you force it underground, you don't know who is who.
Yep.
When they're out in the open like this, you know who the assholes are. That's for hate speech. But for a human being to call another human being, especially if you are in the public realm, if you're an actress, an actor, a politician, even us, with being in the social sphere, we're open to that. We open ourselves up to it. We make ourselves public. I'm fat. And that's what I said. Look, I'm bald. I'm getting old. I'm fat. Like, there are things that I will own. And if somebody says something to me about it, I just kind of chuckle about it because it's nothing I even said about myself.
Well,
Why?
I taught my daughter very early on, not to cut you off. I just want to throw this. I taught my daughter, if you can laugh at yourself, especially if someone's trying to pick at you, you can laugh at yourself. Guess what? You shut them the fuck down. You start laughing and go, hey, that was funny. They're going to be like, fuck.
So we had one of the nicknames that we used to use in my family with uncles and stuff like that growing up is everybody called each other ugly. And you called it like a noun. Hey, ugly, how you doing, ugly? Blah, 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 blah. Right? I did that with my daughter for years. Ugly was, to me, a funny nickname. But the other thing and people would look at you all weird, but I said, here's the problem. When she's 13, 12, whatever, when she's in school with boys and some boy is mad at her and says, you're ugly, it's not going to mean a damn thing to her.
Nope.
Nothing. Criticism will mean nothing because we use it as comedy. You just thicken your skin, and actually it's not even thickening your skin, you're ignoring it outright. And you're not letting it judge your emotions or affect your emotions a better way. So, the fact that Europe, I know you said this on your show 2 nights ago because I saw it, and I've said it too. The amount of blood and treasure, more importantly, the blood that was spent in Europe over 2 world wars, the rebuilding of such, and all the protection that we gave them through the Cold War up through today. And the simple fact of the matter is, they are running towards a communist society.
Yeah.
Free speech is the first thing to go. Look, folks, a lot of those countries have already been disarmed. Let me rephrase that. That's the first thing to go.
Yeah.
That's the first thing to go. You see it in, I forget what year. I want to say it was the early 90s when Australia banned firearms by and large. Um, You look at where Australia's gone and how their government is still doing draconian stuff under the guise of COVID emergency. Now you look at the UK,
Canada.
Canada, all of these uber liberal, and we talk about this all the time. All these uber liberal societies are always leaning more towards socialism. What's socialism? Socialism is just polite communism.
Yep.
Nobody wants to talk about that, but that's all it is.
You want to
It's
know what
polite communism.
socialism is?
What?
Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your freedoms can be taken away. It's owned by somebody else, and it's given to you freely.
Yep. There are people who believe that government gives you rights, and government doesn't give you rights. We talk about the Constitution. What does the Constitution do? The Constitution restrains the government from taking your rights. It doesn't provide you rights. It protects you from the government.
And on that note, because I want everybody to look up William Patterson. He's one of the original signers of the Constitution. Ended up being the first Supreme Court judge for New Jersey, and he actually wrote some papers and explained what militia meant in that term. Go ahead. I'm sorry if I didn't pop that in there. I would have forgot that.
No, I think that's great. I tell everybody, read the Articles of Confederation, read the founding documents, understand where the founders were. We tie it into the Second Amendment, and I know we beat a dead horse with these couple of subjects on a regular basis, but you tied it into the Second Amendment. Why was the Second Amendment so important to the founders? Well, because they fled a country where their religious rights were being, and their rights in general being squashed. They came to America. The king was imposing unrealistic taxation and really making their life miserable. And what did they do? They stacked bodies.
Yeah, but what was the taxes? Well, do you know what the percentage was?
Oh, it was like 4%.
3% or 4%. Yeah. But and what do we pay now?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. But I want to get back to the fun because I know we have a tendency to get so damn serious. Excuse me. I'm still getting over that cold, man. It's brutal. Katie Palvich, who's on Fox News, whatever, she just posted in the last 5 minutes. It's a link from NBC talking about the Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, etc. want to steal your hard-earned gains to create opportunity, whatever the hell that means, is what her post was. I don't even have to watch the video. Well, a lot of people don't know. Elizabeth Warren is helping Kamala Harris write her plan on the economy. That has been reported on several times.
Yeah, I didn't hear that one.
I want to talk a little bit because this ties into one of the biggest ones that they want to do is unrealized gains or whatever they call it. It essentially is taxing you on something that hasn't happened yet.
Wait a minute, Facebook said that's not happening. They've been flagging posts and saying this is false information.
Right. Did they flag false information on anyone posting that Kamala suddenly wants to build a wall?
Do they flag flat Earth pages?
Yeah. But you look at it. First of all, we talk about price capping. Well, first, you look at every socialist and communist country, price capping was a big thing where the government controlled pricing. They are blowing this up, and I forget his name. He's a little weasel who teaches economy out of Berkeley. A lot of people follow him. He's on Twitter. Reich, I think, is his last name, Robert Reich. And he put up this graphic essentially saying, companies like Kroger, he used Kroger specifically, they made $68 billion or $35 billion. And their CEO took home $20 million. That's a company that's, just right to have price caps because they're gouging. Well, somebody responded, and I wish I could remember this genius's name, but he said, whoa. You're looking at just profit.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at what they pay for the food and what they sell it at. What you're ignoring is transportation, housing, electricity, employee pay, all of those things. And it works down to be 2 to 2.5%.
Yep.
And they want to go after the grocers. Now, does that say that the grocers maybe aren't up selling a pepper for a nickel? Of course they are. They still have to turn a profit.
Yeah.
Right? As soon as you tell a business, hey, you're going to work and not turn a profit, that's socialism.
And you're going to see companies just shut right down.
Because what you're doing then is you're essentially just working for the government. When the government's telling you that you can't make a profit and you have to sell it at cost, you
Well,
might as well be working at the government at that point.
What happens when the companies shut down, though? Then the government has to open those stores up, and guess what we have then?
Right. Bread lines.
Yeah.
We're already going to have bread lines. I'll tell you right now, if she gets in and these policies are enacted, you're going to have bread lines. So let's see. Trying to go through some of these. Dude, some of these AI videos are just amazing.
AI letters.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the AI letters. Do you have them up? Because I don't have them up just yet.
I never found the one from supposedly from Tucker to.
Oh, it was the funniest. It was on Kamala's page. It was on the Kamala Harris president. Yeah. So yesterday, I believe it was, Kamala's people put up a letter allegedly from Tucker Carlson, essentially telling her she's right about everything, handwritten and signed Tucker. Within 14 seconds, people were able to wash it through programs and figure out, hey, this is AI based. This is not Tucker. Not only that is, why would Tucker Carlson do this of all things? He's really tight with Trump. He's a huge conservative. He's everything that Kamala hates, and she is everything he hates. Why would they do it? So, of course, the internet goes batshit crazy, right? Because that's what the internet does. They react, and I'm trying to pull up Tucker's response because I know
I have
it's
that
here
one.
And it was just, so he posted on another AI letter that he created a letter back to Tucker from Kamala.
Here, I'm popping it up right now.
When the writing is my favorite. All the hearts over the eyes, the smiley faces, the arrows, and the AI generated letter, or the letter that Tucker created, was, "Dear Tucker, I can't believe I'm writing you this letter, but here goes. Honestly, I never thought we'd have so much in common since college. I've considered myself moderately progressive in the sense that I don't believe in law enforcement, national borders, or a right of American citizens to exercise fundamental autonomy. You seem like you were coming from a totally different place. I thought I disagreed with the hearts. The hearts are killing me through this whole thing. With you on everything. Boy, I was wrong. The other night I was looking at the internet and saw your conversation with Bobby Kennedy Jr. There wasn't a word I disagreed with, not one. I turned to Montel. For people that don't know, back in the day, Kamala Harris dated Montel Williams. She's on the red carpet a bunch of times with him. I turned to Montel and I said, I was very wrong about this man. So very, very wrong. The way he talks, he's so bold and wise and strong. He's immovable like a towering oak tree in a windstorm. He sways gently but never breaks. His trunk is so broad and firm. Sorry. His trunk is so broad and firm and rooted to the earth. I can't imagine the size of his root ball. I was so impressed. So thank you. You showed me something about myself and about myself and about the world. I will never forget it until we meet OXOXO Kamala with a heart with an arrow through it and a smiley face. Okay.
Oh my God.
Hold on. I apologize.
No.
When you want to talk about master level trolling online,
Oh,
man, I know I shared this. I know you shared it. You go to Two Against Tyranny if you want to find it on my page. What a brilliant letter! What a brilliant response! And look, again, I've seen some people like, oh, like he made so many there were so many like suggestive statements, but she opened herself up to
Yep.
this. She presented a false letter as if it was real. the gate's open. I don't give a shit at that point. You've created this problem.
I want to know who the idiot is that put that fake letter up so quick and didn't think to, let's really think about this before we post it.
Oh gosh. And here's something too that's been going through that we know about the Harris administration. There's a lot of infighting right now.
Yeah.
There is a lot of reported infighting that there are advisors who are saying, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. My guess, for what it's worth, and I said this on somebody's page, is I think Kamala really thinks she's like attached to people, like she's got her feet on the ground and know what people really want and need and like what's going to work. And I
She's
don't think
believing
she
her own
does.
hype.
And I think advisors are like, nah, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we can't do that. And she's freaking out and yelling. And look, you remember she's got like a 90% turnover rate in the VP office in her tenure because it's such a hostile work environment. So none of that would shock me.
No.
I don't know. How do you I can't respond into that chat. I see the chat over to the right. And again, this is all technology I don't know about. I feel like Clint.
With mine, if you click on, you should be on below the chat. There's a little space where you can put in, but you can pick out which chat to respond to.
Nope.
I'll have to check that out because I haven't been on Restream on your side.
Not even kinda. So anywho, there is another
But also,
story.
I'm
Oh, go
hearing
ahead.
a lot out of Kamala Harris's camp that they are freaking the fuck out, especially since the DNC. I know
Oh, yeah.
there's all the hype out there and da, but that's all dog and pony show. The reality is they know they're in trouble. We talked about it today. And what was it you said? They, usually after the conventions, they're out there hitting the pavement real hard.
Right, when you have to regroup right after your convention, there's problems.
Yes.
When you have to go, "Ooh, what we're doing isn't working," because what you're admitting is the convention didn't work.
Yep.
And I know plenty of people who were independent. I know a couple of Democrats who were not impressed with the convention whatsoever.
It was
They
full
thought it
to the brim.
well, they thought it was too Trump-based. They thought what was presented did not highlight Kamala, because you gotta remember, you look at this by and large, up until she held the soft coup on Joe Biden, which she did, people want to ignore that, but that's a truth.
Yeah.
He was going to be the nominee until she forced via PACs to withhold money. But we knew a week before it happened, there were already rumors that her people and Biden's people were fighting in the White House, that she was making deals behind the scene. We all knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So, but
I can't say
before that,
I didn't think it was coming. I didn't think they were going to replace him because it looked too bad on him. I will admit that I was wrong on it.
Oh, I thought they were gonna replace him years ago. I'll be honest with you. I thought the whole point was by year 2. Look, people have a short memory. You remember when he was running from the basement, right?
Yep.
He was already stammering. He was already making mistakes. He fell off the bike. He fell going up the stairs. He was talking to people that had been dead for 3 years in audiences. He was talking to world leaders that weren't there. Like, there is a huge, um there was a huge signs, and I had said I'd be shocked if Joe makes 2 years before they install Kamala, and I think that was look, I think all the progressives originally wanted Kamala, but she couldn't make a primary. Why couldn't she make a primary? Because she's horrible. She's
Yep.
garbage. She has terrible ideas. She still does.
She
And
can't speak unless it's written down on paper. The interview coming up, look at that. She can't do it unless it's taped. And
oh no,
Spanky's next door.
she needs her emotionally support communist with her.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
you
that
know,
just shows that I saw some women going. That just shows that screams that women need a man next to them to do anything. I'm not saying that.
I know
But
that fight's gonna start. But a lot of people brought up, well, Trump and Vance had a dual interview together after Vance was announced. And I said, yeah, but Trump did a whole bunch of individual interviews before that. They're not saying that they should never interview together. What they're saying is nobody has yet to speak to her one-on-one.
Yep.
There's been no real interview with Kamala. So this rolls back into what I was saying, which the convention was supposed to be, this is who Kamala Harris is, because For the 3.5 years prior, she had the lowest approval rating of any vice president ever. She was horrible when she was around. She hid half the time. She gave horrible interviews. They were supposed to be rebranding her, and it didn't work. I don't think it worked. I don't think anybody is convinced she's any different than what they already thought she was. She's not some new special out of the package. Look, I think a lot of people are shocked at how good JD Vance is doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't like his choice at first, but I was going off of his anti-Trump rhetoric a couple years ago, and I didn't think I thought at first he was going to be another Vance or Pence. I still don't trust him altogether, but
my biggest problem with JD Vance is he hadn't really been tested yet. And we've seen people. Trump's the anomaly, right? But he's dealt with high pressure situation for years, so he can deal with high pressure. Didn't know how JD was going to respond. I am pleasantly surprised with how he responds. So that's the rant on Kamala. I do have a topic I want to jump to because it's literally how batshit crazy can California get.
I don't want to jump. I'm too fat to jump.
You'd probably break your knees.
The floor.
Everything in between.
Knock the Earth's rotation off a couple degrees.
Yeah,
Hey.
It happens to the best of us. AB 1840 in California. This is Assembly Bill 1840. When I tell you, first of all, 3 months ago, after allowing the homelessness problem in this state go to hell, and just standing by and watching it, they blame the Grants Pass lawsuit about why they weren't clearing homeless facilities, but they were dumping billions. They were laundering money. They were dumping billions of dollars from the state budget to these NGOs who were run by politicians' friends that were doing nothing whatsoever with that money in the homeless problem. So
I'm shocked.
After the Grants Pass Supreme Court ruling came out, Newsom says, "Oh, we're going to start fixing all of these homeless encampments," and he goes out and this video of him, of course, cleaning up because this is what needs to be done.
Oh yeah,
that needs to be done because it was politically killing them in this state, and by so killing Harris in the state. Everything that Newsom is doing to help Harris right now and himself in the future. So California just passed, and it's going to go to the governor's desk, AB 1840. What is that, you might ask? That is the $150,000 loan giving to illegal immigrants to buy a house. $150,000 loan. Now you combine this with the $25,000 loan the federal government, if Kamala gets put in, that's $175,000 interest-free loan being given to illegal immigrants,
criminals.
When we have veterans sleeping on the street.
Yep.
But wait, there's more. And this was put out by Assemblywoman Kate Sanchez, who is from the Riverside area, is a conservative. And I appreciate her. She's one of the few in the state that actually fight. California's legislation passed a bill, which will go to the governor's desk, banning ID for voting. Banning. So it's not a state law, but you could have local laws say, hey, you need an ID to vote, blah, 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 blah. This bans ID for voting. And she's Hispanic. And she said, are you really suggesting that Latinos and people of color can't get an ID? How insulting is that?
And it's telling them they're too stupid that they can get an ID. And I think it's racist within itself. These minorities are too stupid to go down to DMV and get an ID. They don't have, especially the older ones are too stupid. What?
Yes.
How do they deal with everyday life without an ID?
I will tell you right now, former LA Sheriff Alex Villanueva, who I follow on X, has been railing against the government. And Alex Villanueva, when he left office, his voting constituents on both sides of the aisle really liked him because he was a good sheriff in LA. This is before things went batshit crazy. And even when things went batshit crazy, he's like, hey, we got to stop this. Like, this is not sustainable. And so he left 2 years ago, I think. I've always respected him. I've always liked him. I will tell you, if you go look at his timeline and what he's working on and his stories and everything, this man's running for governor in a couple of years. I have no doubt about it, and I'd vote for him in a second. As a
But can he
California
win in
resident,
California?
I think he has a better chance than most.
Because that goes
Steve Hilton,
to a little bit off the subject, but I've been hearing Florida and Texas are going to turn blue. Bullshit.
I don't believe
And then
that.
I've
I don't
heard
believe that.
on the other side, I've called him out on just much. Oh, we could flip California. No, we can't.
But you got to remember,
Not right
California
now.
has, I mean, recently has had a Republican governor. Because in California, it's the top two vote getters, governor, lieutenant governor, has nothing to do with their party. Alex Villanueva is highly respected, highly liked, probably a little bit more of a centrist than I am, but I don't mean that in a bad way. But I think he is going to be running. If so, I think he could actually stand a chance, and he'd be a great change for the state. I know Steve Hilton, formerly of Fox News, the English guy.
All right.
He was a commentator. He was a former aide to one of the English prime ministers, David Cameron, I think. He's also talking about. He's a California resident and citizen. He's also talking about running. You're starting to see. Um, you're starting to see something in this state, and it's not just in the suburbs. And a lot of people don't know about California. First of all, the government, California as a state, is a nice state. Like there's beautiful places to go.
Yeah.
There's good food. But you get outside the major cities, you get outside of Sacramento, San Francisco, Oakland, Santa Barbara, LA, and actually I won't even list San Diego because San Diego is a pretty conservative area. You get outside of those major areas and you have very, very conservative constituency. You also have a very low population because it's rural. I tell everybody there is a shitload of rednecks in California. You just don't know it
Yeah.
because there's none of them around. But I think what you're seeing is you have a mass exodus in the state of a lot of liberals that have left the state. A lot of them because of prices are so high. You know how liberals are. They raise the price on everything. They make it completely unlivable, and then they disappear and go ruin somebody else's state. We're in the middle of that right now. You have major industries that are leaving the state left and right that are taking their people with them.
I hate to call it out. My brother-in-law and his wife lived in California, and they're Democrats, hardcore liberals, and even they went
bounced. Yep.
We're going to New Jersey.
Yeah, it's better in New Jersey. Imagine that.
I know. I'm like, shit.
Woo. First of all, who's ever said those words that it's better in New Jersey? And I don't care what you're talking about.
They went from California to Jersey.
I'll admit this. Other than a few Italian joints that I've been to in the northern part of the state, you can't really say it about anything else. You can't say I'd rather go to New Jersey about anything.
No, the beaches are nice.
Yeah, except if you don't have a permit, you get tackled there now.
Yeah, you get arrested.
So are the beaches really nice?
Well, true, because down here in Florida, we don't have to pay for the beaches. In fact, a lot of places, till recently, you didn't even have to pay to park.
Right. And I understand. I mean, I understand paying a minimal amount of parking for upkeep of the area. And I know people like, oh, the government shouldn't charge to park. First of all, if you're in a downtown or a very busy area, what it does, it forces people not to leave their cars there for an extended period of time, which people will, blah, 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 blah. But it's passive income. But I also like Sacramento, the amount to park here is ridiculous. I can remember where you could park for a quarter for 2 hours, right?
Back in my day.
Right. It wasn't that long ago.
I know.
I parked downtown to get an hour and a half, or no, to get an hour, it was like $2 or $2.50 on a public street that I pay taxes to drive on. I pay taxes and my registration fees to drive on these roads and park on them already. Cut the shit. So I think you're up. I think I picked Villanueva. I think he's going to run for governor. I really do. And I hope he does. I would actually work on his campaign if he was going to run for governor.
Hey, I'll throw support behind any conservative. Well, I don't want to say that because there is conservatives. I just can't support McConnell, Lindsey Graham. Just name two off the top of my head. I'm tired of them.
I don't think Alex Villanueva is even close to as much of a rhino as they are.
I'm just saying, I can't get, just because they're Republicans, I still can't get behind them. I'm not going to back them. right, so my pick. Actually, I got two quick ones. SCOTUS has ruled again
I'm
against
actually
Biden.
sending a message. Sorry, I'm actually sending a message in public to Villanueva saying, "So you're running, right?" All right.
Supreme Court of the United States ruled against Biden again on the paying off the college debt
Cheers.
for a second time.
Outstanding.
And you betcha he'll still try before he leaves to do it again.
So let me ask you this: in any other real world court situation, if you did something and the judge said to you, "Hey, that is illegal and you are not allowed to do that, don't do that," and do it a second time, and that judge has to say to you again, "Hey, that is illegal. Do not do that. I've already told you once." How many times before you're held, and I know they won't hold Joe in contempt of court because they can't, but you'd be held in contempt of court eventually, right?
Yeah.
And you do time. What is the redress that the Supreme Court has to hold somebody accountable for this?
Actually, I don't really know. But I want to back it up because I railed against Obama. And
Mhm.
Obama didn't even do something like this.
I know. I know.
Jesus Christ.
Well, Obama was politically more savvy. Look, you want to talk about the difference between, and this is why I'll tell you right now. You want to know why Obama has such gray hair now? Because he's still pulling all the strings, and I believe this 100%. And the two morons
Are
that
fucking it
he
up.
has are dicking it up. Obama was savvy. Say what you want about him. We talked
He
about this
was.
a long time ago. I don't agree with his policies. I'll never agree with his policies. Obama presented himself like a statesman. Do you know how far that goes with a lot of people? Just the presentation, right? Is that he was a statesman. He was calm. He tried to, I mean, yeah, he had the beer summit, but even that was brilliant on some level because to his constituency, he was a reasonable person, right? You could
Yeah.
talk to him. Right? That was the
He was like a JFK,
perception.
modern times JFK. He had that suave.
Yeah, that swagger that
Yeah.
people are just like, oh, I like him for that. They don't.
I will
And,
admit, when he got elected, I wasn't big in politics back then. My parents
right.
weren't either. And we sat on the back porch watching him get sworn in and the speech that he gave about doing what he was going to do to the country. And we're saying, like, holy shit, this sounds like a president that's going to do something. And then we started finding out what he really meant. And we're like, shit, we got the wool pulled over our eyes.
Right. Well, and you look at who he was. He was a 2-year senator that nobody knew, but he could work a room, right? He could work a room. He still can. When he speaks, people listen, right? Because
Harump.
he harumph. Exactly. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. Um, such a great movie. But Joe was not that. Kamala is not that. Waltz is not that. Dude, I'll tell you right now, and I don't mean this in a negative, mean way. And I almost think like they'll eventually use this to benefit them. Having an autistic son, I think Waltz is autistic. You look at his mannerisms, his speech, and you look how has explosive moments, the leg kicking, the inability to control his personal body when he gets excited. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Edge.
2 hands,
Yeah.
right? When he holds other people's hands, he's kicking his leg like a rocket. I'm not 100%. I'm not convinced he is not autistic.
Dude, I put a gift up underneath one of his things of the Rockettes.
It's so ridiculous. And I'll tell you
Oh.
right now, if I was his PR person, I'd be like, look, stop the kicking. It's almost like Joe with the stop the whispering, Joe.
And then
Stop
screaming.
yeah, exactly. Stop the kicking.
What are you yelling at? I don't know.
Reports floating right now. Tony Saruga. Tony Saruga is really an interesting person to follow on X if you do not follow him. He um he's done a lot of intel stuff. He was a CIA NSA whistleblower. Um really connected, really dialed, and he's another one when he puts stories out, usually it pans out. He put out a story at 5:35 Pacific time, excuse me, essentially saying the January 6th bomber story, which everyone forgets,
Yep.
is about to break wide open. It will be career-ending for dozens of federal employees, but also ending a presidential campaign along with congressional and Senate careers. He's got 171,000 followers. He's been really accurate in the past about a lot of things that he said, hey, this is going to drop soon. So this story is intriguing me. I've actually bookmarked it. And it's interesting. The pipe bomb story was never discussed again. You hear so much about January 6th, but you don't hear anything about the pipe bomb story. Now, there's been a couple of photos leaked
Video
that
too.
the video, but the still shots from the video of law enforcement speaking with the person matching the description who dropped off the pipe bombs just outside the building. Um, there's photos of people of or video of law enforcement coming and going from the building right around the time that the pipe bomb was allegedly dropped, and yet nothing. Now, you look at January 6th, let's break this down. You look at the amount of outrage, even though I will talk about January 6th, there's the Pelosi video that just dropped where she was walking down the hall. That is indicting of itself. They did everything they could to lengthen January 6th into something it was not. They did everything they could to make that front and center for months at a time. That was on every news, every headline, blah, 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 blah. Why would this pipe bomb story fall away so fast? You have to ask
Cover it up.
yourself a question. It's the same question that I ask whenever somebody says, "Oh, Trump was on Epstein Island, blah blah blah." Show me the pictures. Show me the flight logs. Right? Because if he was, that would have been all over the place
Yep.
years ago. There is no doubt in my mind that he is not. As a matter of fact, he testified and gave statements against Epstein
Yep.
in the Florida case, and he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago when he found out what he was. He was not a friend with Epstein. Took a couple pictures at public events like everybody does because everyone wants to get
Actually, a
a picture
couple of
with
those
Trump.
pictures have been proven to be fake.
Fake. Yeah, but there's two of them I think that are real. But they're at public events where Epstein was, Trump was, and they took a picture together. That happens a lot. I don't always blame. It's different with Harvey Weinstein and Oprah, who are friends. Harvey Weinstein with
Yep.
Hillary because he was tight, they were tight. That was a lot different. But so the pipe bomb story going away, and there's still a $500,000 reward out there for the Capitol Hill pipe bomber that I'm just reading from the FBI.gov website at the DNC headquarters. There's still a $500,000 reward out. So it's still an active investigation. Why haven't we heard anything? Well, we haven't heard anything because much like the Trump shooting, they don't want you to hear anything. They came out today, the FBI and the Trump shooting came out saying, said, "Oh, well, Crooks really wasn't working with anybody." Okay, then show me what was on his phone. I know you said he had porn, so you knew he had porn on his phone, but if he wasn't talking to anybody, how come there's that still shot that somebody got of him from one of the video cameras where he's texting? What was being said? Why aren't you releasing all the transcripts from his phone? Everything. You should download that phone onto the FBI website. You can redact like his parents' phone numbers, stuff like that. I don't mind that. But show me what he was saying and to who he was saying it to.
I am listening. I think we may have dropped the X space somehow.
What?
Yeah, the X space may have dropped. I don't know.
Well, we gotta fix that right now.
Yeah. Pop that back up.
Yeah, you gotta get that going. You want me to do it?
I got it. You keep talking.
So that brings us back to the original topic that was there before I went off is the January 6th pipe bomb. I don't I know Saruga well enough to know that he's been pretty accurate. I know he's got contacts in Washington. I firmly believe he's got contacts in Washington. So this could actually be a huge story. Um, speculation completely
Join
right
back
now.
into the join back in.
Pure speculation right now is if this is true and if something drops tomorrow, and I'm getting there, just so you know.
Yeah.
You know, to say that it could end a presidential career or a campaign is incredible to me.
Yeah, that's a big.
That's a pretty lofty. Now, of course, this is one of those things for Saruga. It could hurt his credibility, 100%. But as I said before, he's had a pretty good history. I followed him for a long time. So I thought that was interesting. So let's see what happens with that story tomorrow. I think that's something people got to pay attention to. It's one of those stories that can't go away. I'll bring up the
Yeah.
Trump shooting again. It's a story that cannot go away. What?
Go ahead and accept the.
Already in there, brother.
All right, there we go.
We can't let these stories go away, and that's something that the fact that the pressure. Look, we see so much dumping right now, which is just crazy to me, into the news cycle. So many things that they're going to allow out into public to hide the Trump shooting. I think there's more to the Trump shooting. I necessarily think that there's CIA involvement? Shit, I don't know. But we've seen it in the past. Look, how do you not? I believe RFK Jr. a lot when he talks about his uncle and his dad. Um, does he have an axe to grind? Of course he does. The trade-off to that is I don't think he's one of those guys who needs to fabricate certain things. You know what I mean? Like, I don't agree with everything RFK says. I'm glad he and Trump found some unity. I'm glad that they're campaigning together. I think it's actually incredibly healthy for this country
Yeah.
to see that people from two sides, and this is something even as conservatives we have to get better about doing. There has to be a better way than just standing on other sides of the room and screaming at each other constantly. And that's something that I think, this will help with. And that's what's driving liberals crazy right now, is that they're actually getting together. And then you add Tulsi, who, by the way, RFK is a lot different. First of all, if you ever saw the surfing videos from a long time ago, Tulsi was in the bathing suit before any of the other congressional women were, but that's neither here nor there. But Tulsi Gabbard has they red pilled her. They red pilled Tulsi Gabbard when they accused her of being a Russian asset. When Hillary did, she laid out Kamala. She ended Kamala's first run as presidency. Ended it, and she ended it on constitutional principles for the most part, which if you go back and listen to that speech, she was talking about the same stuff back then as they're saying now. She saw what they did to Bernie. She knew what was coming, and then they did it to her.
And who's working with Trump on debating?
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Oh, yeah.
You follow, everyone says, well, Tulsi said some things in the past. Look, Trump was a Democrat in the past. Reagan was a Democrat. Everyone said some things in the past. It doesn't mean you can't evolve. And even if she still believes some things that I don't agree with, right? The fact that you can have a conversation with her about it says that maybe you can enlighten her to change her opinion.
Yep.
And she has been.
But if everybody thought the same way, we wouldn't advance as a country.
I agree with you. 100%.
We need different opinions, different ideas all coming together. I mean, that's how you come up with better ideas. It all pissed me off.
The only thing I want to see out of Tulsi Gabbard, honestly, in the future, before she runs as a conservative, which she's going to at some point, I think, is to her tighten up her stance on 2A. She was pretty not great on 2A in the past.
I thought you were saying 2-way.
Oh, no, that's a different. Look, no, I'm leaving that. I'm leaving that alone. I'm leaving that alone. But you've also seen out of her a lot more photos of her at the range, a lot more photos of her shooting, stuff like that. So I think I think they red pilled her completely. I think she is, and you listen to her talk, right? What does she talk about? Freedom of speech, the Constitution, the government being smaller. She says all the right things that conservatives we agree with.
Yep.
So even if we don't get 100% the way there, I would rather I'm 75% of the way that I can agree on, that the other 25%, and she's reasonable. Look, she is working with Trump, as is RFK, to his credit. She is working with Trump to beat Kamala. Now, you could say that there's some sour grapes there, and she wants to kick Kamala's ass because of what happened before. Great. I totally get that. However, even in the interviews, she's very generous towards Trump as a person. What she says, how she says it, how she approaches him. She appreciates him. And she was doing this 2 years ago when Tucker was still on Fox. She'd come on Tucker's show and say very much the same thing. So I think it's brilliant for Trump to bring Tulsi Gabbard in.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's absolutely brilliant. And now we're hearing, and I know you told me this, and I don't know, you said you were going to do some research, Joe. I don't know, producer Joe, that's what I'm going to call you. I don't know if you did any more research, but there's also rumors that there's going to be a lot more Democrats strolling down the line here soon that are going to be taking the stage with Trump.
I haven't heard of any more news on it, but between like RFK, Gabby, some other little tweets here and there, there's supposed to be some more big time Democrats crossing the aisle.
So
and
let's start.
Trump. Well, let's do one thing real quick. Let's get a little station break for a second. And remember, everybody that's listening, if you could hit share, we would love it. Just to get the message out a little bit more. And we'll be
it even helps the algorithm. Like it helps the algorithm.
Yep. And we'll be right back in 1 minute.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You can catch the Reaver Common Sense Show right here on YouTube and Rumble every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Be warned, he's the one your mother warned you about.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back. Perfect timing. Yeah, it was a short one.
It was not a minute.
I know, I messed up. I was looking at the wrong one. I actually played my intro for my... I had a blonde moment.
All right, I need a full minute or it's nothing. Man.
I hate this chair.
Oh, God, I can't even get good help anymore.
I know.
Doesn't know what a goddamn minute is.
I keep telling my wife that's a minute.
Oh, the poor thing. Hey,
That's 6 inches, damn it.
100%.
That's why women can't measures.
Every minnow I ever caught's been at least 6 inches. So I change from politics a little bit here.
EverQuest?
No, not EverQuest yet. Have you ever been a kid and you did something and like dad was just like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Or, in my case, you'd catch the Irish beating like it was nothing. But that moment where you've disappointed your parents beyond incredible. Yeah. There's a story out of Israel, and I feel bad for this kid because you can only imagine the look on dad's face. I think they said he was 11 or 12 years old, accidentally knocked over a 3,500-year-old jar in a museum. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't, he wasn't malicious. He just accidentally knocked it over.
Wait till that bill comes in.
Oh, gosh. And they have to do an investigation because it's predating even King David and Solomon. It's going back to 2200 BC, they think. But can you imagine? He just kind of like looked inside, and that's what they said is he just kind of like went to peek up and look in. And he's 11. You don't understand what 1,500-year-old anything is when you're 11, and he knocked the damn thing over. Um, they're saying that he felt horrible, obviously, but can you imagine? Look, I remember the look I would get when I accidentally knocked over a beer for my father, right? The disappointment in his face then. Can you imagine going to a museum, multi-million dollar, I mean, I'm sure it's worth millions. There's no way it's not, right? And it was extracted in the Israeli area, so it's part of Israeli heritage. The land with Israelis, and rightfully so, the land is as much a part of them as their religion is. It's all important. So it is just, but that poor kid. How do you? I just exactly. I mean, I feel bad. Don't get me wrong, and it's a terrible loss to the archaeological community, all that other stuff. But the poor kid. I remember how, like, scared I was when I had to tell my dad about D's on my report card, right? You look at all the things you were afraid to tell your dad or have your parents find out, and then you turn around and talk about this kid who destroyed a 3,500-year or 1,500-year-old vase, whatever it was. Holy Moses.
Yeah. It just
Holy Moses. I just think, and then I try to think of, like, I'm a dad. I get 2 kids. Both of them have done things like this. I try to think of, like, what I would do in that situation. I know what my father would have done. He immediately would have said, "Well, why don't you take him and to make up for the cost?"
Yeah.
That's what he would have said to the museum people.
Yeah.
I seriously would have I think I probably would have just started laughing.
Why didn't this museum have that thing secured?
I don't know. There was probably signs everywhere. What 11-year-old reads signs like that?
No, but I mean, it should have been secured. That even if it was bumped into,
Maybe
it
so.
should.
Maybe so.
And I'm not trying to push blame off, but you would think things priceless, you want to protect it.
Well, and you look at especially what happens with art and stuff like that in Europe with the fanatical green environmental people trying to throw paintings and destroy paintings, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I would absolutely argue that you probably had to put ropes around it at least, um, at the bare minimum,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I saw that and that was like a dad moment. I didn't look at anything other than that. I was just looking at it as a dad moment. I was like, oh man, what would I do in that situation? Like, I don't know if I could pay for it if my kid knocked over like a 300 bottle of wine, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could come out of pocket in that exact moment and pay for it. I'd be like, look, I'm gonna have to put some hours into the kitchen for you. I don't know. But yeah, I was just absolutely laughing. There's another video going around on X right now. It's a rip from TikTok, but it's all over the place. Of Kamala cooking. They're starting to
Oh, Jesus, that one, yes.
but
look at me. I can crack an egg. Vote for me.
right. Which is, I get it. They have to do the she's human too thing, blah, 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 blah. But somebody posted, if Kamala opened a restaurant, what would they name it? And some of them were absolutely incredible. But my suggestion was you'd call it the Kremlin. You call your restaurant the Kremlin, right? You serve very small portions that people have to wait in line a long time for and pay a lot of money to get. You absolutely
New York
could,
City?
yeah, pretty much, right? Right? But not old New York City. That's a new New York City thing. It
Yep.
used to not be that way. I remember when you and I were growing up and we go down to New York City, 16, 17 years old, we go down for a day. We drive down from Boston.
I
But
was
if you're
never a New
20
York person. I just
It was just, it was more the same reason why we went to Montreal. It's because we could. You get a Saturday, somebody had their car, they had dad's truck or whatever, and we all worked 16, 17 years old.
for us, we would head down to the shore, seaside.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But we'd all drive down, just like we'd go to Montreal. We'd all drive down to New York City for the day. We'd do the 4-hour drive in the morning, hang out for a few hours, and come home. Back when the Cross Bronx Expressway was always on fire with cars. You remember those days where it was just, but oh God, the Cross Bronx Expressway. If you'd never driven that up until Giuliani was mayor, but
And who helped Giuliani clean that city up?
Trump, everyone forgets that.
Yep.
But yeah, it was oh god, we used to have a blast. You used to be able to get down there with $20 in your pocket and eat all day and
Oh,
hang
yeah.
out. We'd get on the train and go around like it was a blast. But so you call it the Kremlin, small portions. The design for the restaurant's easy. You just do the rounded pointed tops that they have at the Kremlin, red building, gold prop, right? That's easy.
Yep.
What do you serve? You serve everything you'd serve in a soup kitchen.
Potatoes.
Right, you do small amounts of potatoes, a bland soup with no real flavor to it, no protein because it's too
Yep.
expensive, unrisen bread that does not have yeast to rise with, all small portions on a metal plate. All the waiters and waitresses, you can have them dressed up like Russian guards, right? You make it a theme restaurant.
Gulag.
You could that could be her secondary restaurant called the Gulag.
Yep.
If you can't get into the Kremlin, you end up going to the Gulag.
Gulag. Yep.
That's just yeah. What'd you guys do Friday night? Ended up in the Gulag. And then she could come out and tell you how wonderful everything is that you're having, even though you're just having really like a strained porridge and it's bland and tasteless, and you waited in line 4 hours, paid a ton of money, and then after you pay your bill, the waitresses who are dressed like Russian guards
Shoot you?
hit you. Well, no, they just beat you with the butt of the rifle.
Ah.
You can have fake rifles and they can just hit you in the back of the heads. So you can really get that full communist experience that Kamala loves so, so much. But that was one of the posts from today that I really enjoyed. Let's see.
Hey, and I got a couple actually to pop in here. So I just got an alert on my phone. We got the scanner app,
Yeah.
and it popped up Hillsborough County. And I'm like, wait a minute, I live in Hillsborough County.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh shit. They got a manhunt going in my county. I was like,
outstanding.
damn. Yeah. But what I want to talk about is two quick ones. Well, one may not be quick, but one, the Babylon Bee has a killer tweet.
I love the bee.
Trump props up Trapper Keeper around campaign plans to prevent Kamala from copying. How much of his campaign has she copied?
Oh my gosh. I don't
Now she wants to build a wall.
I'm actually reposting it right now. Now she wants to build a wall, taxes on tips. What was the other one? No tax on tips, I
Childcare.
should say. Childcare. Oh no, the child tax credit.
Yeah.
That
But the
I'll
wall
tell
one
you.
really pisses me off because her and Biden sold off how much of the
Well, they scrapped it. They sold it for scrap. They sold it for less than what it was bought for.
Yeah.
The rest of it's rotting there. They stopped the construction
Yep.
just because. The same thing had happened at the border. And this is one of those things that I really wish people would pay attention to. When Biden got in office, one of the first things he did was undo all of Trump's executive orders on the border and created
Yep.
this mess. There's no question, there's no doubts. This is what he did.
Yep.
So for her to say, now she's gonna suddenly do something. Bro, you were right there. You could have been doing it the whole goddamn time.
How much of this she's talking about? Well, the first day I'm going to do this. Why the fuck haven't you done it? I mean, that's why she's trying to treat Trump as the incumbent.
Right. 100%.
It's holy shit. It bugs the crap out of me. Where?
Well, it's asinine, right? Because she can't run. She can't run on what she did, so she's trying to run like she's never been there before. That's what's crazy to me. That's what's just completely like unrealistic.
Yeah, it's
What is going on?
That one is the red alert for Israel.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to shut your stream down for a minute.
Okay.
So, there we go. That should work. All right. The other one I wanted to talk to, I'm actually going to throw a video up real quick. And I'm going to play the video and then explain what's going on in this instance because it's holy shit. I can't believe this is happening anywhere in a modern day world. Wrong button. Share screen. That one. This one. All right. regular bulldozer is ripping up a street. Where this is happening is in parts, I think it's northern Israel, where foreign forces have planted mines in civilian streets. Now, I don't understand how this can happen in modern day. I know terrorists are going to terrorize, but it's supposed to be against the UN for mines to be used. They're supposed to be banned. Exactly what he's saying. But it's for this to happen in modern day, that you have, it just boggles my mind. I can't believe we're seeing this. Hold on 1 second. All right. Let me stop sharing that. Boom. It just, and that's happening in modern day Israel, and terrorists planting, and it's not even all right. It's not even military areas. It is in civilian areas. Were you able to see that video?
Yeah, no, I watched the whole thing. And Joe, this goes back to, first of all, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, even though they wear uniforms in their pictures and they have a military chain of command and they're organized, they don't get recognized as a military force. They get recognized as terrorists, right?
Yep.
Everybody talks about, oh, well, Gaza has their own elections and they have their own leadership. Great. They have an army and they keep invading Israel, and Hezbollah keeps attacking Israel. As a matter of fact, 3.5 minutes ago, there was just another rocket fired into Israel. I know that's the alert you got.
Yep.
Up in the north area. And I can look at this from both ways. When people say, well, we shouldn't even why are we giving so much money to Israel? Okay, whatever. That's a different argument. But the trade-off to that is, you remove yourself as an American for a minute, just take off your American hat, and you put on your Israeli hat. You are now an Israeli. You live in Israel. Why do these people have to suffer like this all the time? Why does it have to happen? It's been going on for years. And look, I don't care if you don't like how Israel was reconstituted, because the Jews were there thousands of years ago. We all know that. It's not a surprise.
And it's
That
funny,
was
the
their
same people that
homeland.
argue against it argue that the American Indians should have America back because they were here originally.
Right. Right. But the Israelis were there thousands of years ago. After the British worked with the League of Nations, eventually the UN, to reconstitute Israel. I understand, like, people like, "Oh, I don't like how that happened." Okay, well, that was 100, almost 80 years ago, right? This is a different time. That does not keep you don't have the right to keep blowing them up. And you can look, the argument of like, well, Israel did a lot of bad things 15 years ago. Okay, maybe so. Maybe there's stuff that I necessarily don't agree with that they were doing in the Golan Heights and all that other stuff. Eh, but they were doing that because the people who were there were still consistently trying to kill them.
Yeah.
So where's the line is my point. Like, at what point do you get to say at all, well, it's okay for Hezbollah? First of all, why is Hezbollah even allowed to do anything, right? You want to talk about Hamas and you want to talk about Gaza. uh, they're right there in the land. Israel, is in charge of the land. They're separate, but they're not. Blah 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 blah. That's a different argument. I want to talk about just Hezbollah for a second and the Houthis. Okay, the Houthis are another one. You could say they're not a
Houthis.
military. I know. You could say they're not a military, but they are. The Houthis run that part of Yemen. They have a hierarchy. They have a chain of command. They have organized forces. So they're a military. If I look at I'm going to use this example. If Mexico or Toronto in Canada, even if you know what, Montreal is probably a better Quebec because they're more separatist from Canada than any other province. If Montreal is like, hey, we kind of do our own thing, even though we're part of your country, we're not, which is exactly how Montreal exists, or Quebec. They speak French. They don't follow the rest of the Canadian rules. They have their own sets of rules, blah, 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 blah. If Quebec started launching missiles into Montpelier, Vermont, or whatever, Massachusetts, upstate New York, right? We would be pissed. Pissed. You're hitting schools, you're hitting kids, all this other shit. We'd be like, no, no, no. Either Canada needs to stop them or we're going to stop them. And if we're going to stop them, we're going to go flat Earth. It is going to be flat fucking Earth.
Parking lot.
Yep. Israel, for whatever reason, is not allowed to think that way. And this goes to show you, because when this happened last time, and Netanyahu's like, "Hey, I'm done. We're rolling over these bastards." They
Well,
killed
October 7th
1,500,
really pushed the boundaries on.
right? And how come Hamas gets a pass on October 7th by so many on the left? Why?
Let me give you an analogy, if you don't mind.
I
So,
would.
kind of imagine sitting at your house and someone comes knocks on your door, and it's neighbor from 2 blocks away. And he
You're gonna give me my own analogy?
was it yours? Open the door,
Yes. Yes.
and they punch you in the face.
Yes.
That was you. Well, then finish it.
So the first time you'll shut the door and be like, "What the hell, man? That was weird." Then the next day you get another knock on the door and you open it again, you get punched in the face again. You're like, "Dude, what the hell?" And they walk away, right? And you're like, "Look, I'm the bigger person. I'm not gonna retaliate yet, but I'm gonna call the police, the UN and other nations. I'm gonna tell them straight up, like, don't pull this shit anymore. You keep showing up, knocking on my door and punching me in the face. Next time it's not gonna be good." And then the third time you open that door, they go to punch you in the face and you pull out Mr. Happy and you,
Pew, pew.
yeah, you pew around. Everyone goes, "Well," I was like, "No, 3 times, dude. I warned him. Warned him. How come I have to keep getting punched in the face? Why is that okay?" But these are the same people who will tell you that if somebody breaks into your home and you kill them, it's because you value your property more than that other person's life, and they make it your fault. First of all, honey, I did not make that decision for that person. They valued my property
Yep.
more than their own life. Second of all, I don't give a shit. Once you start going into other people's places and dicking around, whatever happens to you, happens to you. Same thing happened with Hamas. October 7th, if you scale up Israel's population to America, October 7th would have been something like 45,000 dead.
Yeah. Jesus.
Think about that. That
Well,
is
think about if the world told us on 9/11. But imagine the world telling us on 9/11 we couldn't retaliate back.
yeah,
The United States would have been
100%.
like, right
Yep,
there.
we would have been like, "Fuck
Rotate.
you, go pound sand." Yep.
Yeah.
Go pound sand, don't give a shit. Um, it's asinine to me that anybody, and look, they say, well, you know, first of all, the Gaza Health Ministry throws out inflated numbers. They've been doing it for years, so don't believe any of their numbers. But they say, you know, there are innocent children and women who are being killed in this. Sadly, I'm sure it's happened. It's war. However, you also have to look at Hamas's tactics. Hamas's tactics very much say, we're going to hide amongst schools. We're going to hide amongst hospitals.
Isn't
We're
that
going
against
to
UN
hide.
rules?
Yes, this is why nobody has ever turned around and said, well, Hamas is clearly a military acting on behalf of Gaza, so they should be following the Geneva Convention, and they're not.
No.
Which is, but then you look at Hezbollah, and you know what's funny too is whenever they get killed, their leaders, their military members, and they put pictures out, you know, like memorial pictures or whatever of the person, they're always in a military uniform. They have BDUs with insignia and ranks. They have a hat tucked in here, right? And these are the Gaza leaders and Hezbollah as well. These are militaries.
Yep.
I don't give a shit. These are militaries. They are organized. They are wearing a uniform with patches, We've seen the patches. You've seen the Hamas patches. You've seen the Hezbollah patches.
If it walks like a duck,
it absolutely is a motherfucking duck. So, do I want this to end in Israel? Yes, but when I say end, I really mean end. I mean Hezbollah doesn't fire any more rockets.
yeah,
I
ever
mean,
again.
Hamas has never had an opportunity to hurt another Israeli again. I want it to end, and I hope it happens soon. The trade-off to that is, I'm just kidding. I froze to freak you out. The trade-off to that is the job has to be
Smart ass.
finished. I saw the movement. I knew it was coming, so I just but you have to finish the job. And you know, I just think all the time, man, if I was an Israeli and my daughter went to a music festival on a
Oh,
Saturday morning, and I would be out of my mind. I would. I'd be out of my mind. I can't promise that I would not just be on the news for horrible things, right? That's somebody's child. And then you start seeing the pictures and the videos from inside all the kibbutz, all the damage that was done inside of there, the blood on the ceilings from grenades, all this other stuff. You hear about the torture. Like,
yep.
these are absolute fucking animals who are doing this, who are victimizing their own people, but that doesn't mean that you don't go get them.
Now,
At
what?
some point, you have to decide that evil needs to be smited, and
Yep.
no matter what, you have to eradicate it.
And now, what is it? They're bitching, about always Israel and who backed away from ceasefire talks again. Again, I
Gaza.
say again. Yep.
If you go back through history, how many times Hamas has walked away from ceasefire talks
Yep.
through all of these different incidents?
And how many times
You,
has Israel bent over backwards trying to appease them?
yep. And the left, the mainstream media, these idiotic protesters who think because they go to college they have a clue about life, all of them have been wrong about this. All
Yep.
of them have been. There's no questions asked.
But now let's bring this back to U.S. politics. How many of these groups have said they're not going to vote Harris if there's no ceasefire?
They will. I
Probably will, but
yeah, they're gonna go. Look, how many sheep have stood outside the slaughterhouse and said that's not going to be me,
yeah,
and they still do it. They still do it. That's my biggest problem with the left. Somebody today told in some ex post at me was like, "Oh, that's your cult leader. He's talking about Trump, whatever."
oh
Look,
Jesus,
Trump to me, I'm not a cultist, and I don't. The problem that they fail to see is through all of his money, through all of his fame, through all of his wealth, Trump still connects to the everyday people. He still makes them feel heard and addressed. And I'll
yep,
tell you right now, that's always going to touch people. That's always going to be a difference maker. And if you look up until the Chinese released COVID, and I don't give a shit what anyone says, I still will die on the hill that it was intentional.
yeah.
And
I'll stand right. Would you?
we were on path to have an economic gain like no other. We weren't starting any wars. We were trying to draw down on the last one. We were doing tits, balls, amazing. Everything was going well. And then COVID hit. But that doesn't mean that Trump still didn't connect. Look, we can talk about COVID, whatever. And the other thing too is Trump stayed connected when he was out of office to people. You saw the videos of him walking into weddings that are being held at Mar-a-Lago, just randomly stopping and talking
Yep.
to people. You saw the donations he's made to certain funds or whatever. He stays connected to people. So if you want to call it a cult because the average everyday working American feels recognized, call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
The simple fact of the matter is, as a hardworking middle class American who is, by the way, now bumped out of the middle class, I'll tell you right now, under Trump, and I tell everyone the story, I was $25,000 in debt when Trump came into office. Before Trump left office, even with COVID and everything, because I switched jobs, but I stayed working. Um, I was able to pay off all of that debt because the economy was good. That's not bullshit. That's not a lie. That's not an exaggeration. I had to cut everything back and I really buckled down, but COVID gave me the opportunity to go do that because we weren't going anywhere, right? So I was putting a ton of money towards my debt, but I could do that because the economy was still very, very good. Now, I will tell you right now, 3.5 years of Harris, half that debt is back onto me.
Yeah.
That I've had to go back to using credit cards and stuff to pay for things because it's too expensive. And I've cut back more than I cut back when I was paying off my debt the first time, and I'm still at a net loss every month. And I'm making more money now than I did then.
And I love the economy, the inflation or whatever, I can't think of it, dropped
Transient.
3%. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dropped
It dropped
3%.
3%, but it's still up 6.
Well, not just that. I mean, it's what, 20% up from time they got in office?
Yes.
Inflation.
Oh, yeah.
And you dropped it down.
Yeah, you dropped it by 3%. Come on, this is a positive thing. We've dropped it 3%. And it's like, dude, no, that's not solving it. That is slowing it. Okay. But just say we slowed it.
Oh, you cut jobs. You lost
well,
4 million jobs, but we brought 3 million back.
Well, and then that report just came out last week that said not so much. And when the Secretary of Commerce Secretary was on with MSNBC, and they said, "Well, what about this job number that just got corrected?" And they said, "Well, I don't believe anything that Trump says." And it's Secretary of the Interior. And it's like, well, this isn't from Trump. These are government numbers. Oh,
Yep.
I haven't read that yet. It's like that is their default answer is Trump. And it's funny because when I hear people talk about Trump derangement syndrome, it's true. It's the whole reason why Biden undid every single executive order that Trump had the minute he walked into office. That was Trump derangement syndrome. And it continues when you get
the
a
DNC
was
like Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
200 in how many times?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah. It was nonstop. Oh, man. Let's see.
I have one for you to talk about.
Go for it.
The missing children.
You're talking about the immigration?
The illegal immigrants, the children that are missing.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I know you want to bring more light to that subject because it seems like it got kicked to the side with everything else.
Huge.
Because it makes certain people look very, very bad, so they don't want it discussed.
Yeah, and I'm looking up
I know I hit you out of the blue on this, but
I know.
It just popped in my head.
More than 32,000 unaccompanied migrant children failed to appear for their immigration court hearings, and ICE is not able to locate them. 32,000 children out of, I want to say, and I'm trying to look at the numbers because I had it last week, but I have so many numbers in my head sometimes that it doesn't make sense. I want to say that, 291,000 children have come over the border since Biden-Harris took office. 291,000 children, not including adults, many of them unaccompanied. 32,000 they cannot find. 32,000 children cannot be found. Now, a lot of these children, when they came over and they came over by themselves, they get put into NGOs, non-governmental organizations, who were supposed to care for these children, give them a safe place to live, almost like a foster care system. There were supposed to be checks and balances. There was a report that came out about 3 months ago that said, hey, a lot of these NGOs are doing a shit job. They found kids working in meat factories at 3 o'clock in the morning at 12, 13 years old. They have kids who have been abused by their caretakers. You have kids that have been missing. We didn't know the extent. And this was testified in front of government. This wasn't just a speculation by any sort of media. And then this report by ICE saying 32,000 children. Look, all you're saying to me at this point is 32,000 children are put into an absolute horrible situation that's probably going to scar them for life. And I'll be honest with you, even if they're just living on the streets by themselves and nobody's abusing them, that's going to scar them for life.
Yeah.
If they are not able to locate through these NGOs these children, they cannot validate their children's well-being or these children's well-being. We know about the juvenile sex trafficking that has happened in this country. We know that human trafficking is one of the biggest issues that does not get talked about. Under the Trump administration, you had the U.S. Marshals who was absolutely kicking ass, rescuing children and making human trafficking arrests. I want to say like the last year there was something like 600 kids that were rescued, um, some from different countries that got imported here. This has been an ongoing issue and a problem for several years. ICE has been the marshals were essentially cut back from that operation. They were crushing it. I mean, they were making arrests every day. They were putting it out every day. They were rescuing kids every day. And I remember one raid netted like 30 something kids out of a warehouse. It was enormous. They cut the program back. And now you have 32,000 children that are unaccounted for. And children are anyone under the age of, I think, 18 um, by their metrics. I know what our standard is for it, but that's what they track as a child as well. So I worry about the 12, 11, 14, 13, 15, 16-year-old girls and boys as well. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be at worry. I worry that they're working in fields that we just don't know about in unsafe situations. I worry that they're working in sweatshops somewhere in unsafe situations. Look, if you don't think there aren't still sweatshops in this country, there
Yeah.
are for a lot of the illegal stuff or the imitation stuff that gets released out there. Look, if we have secret Chinese police stations in New York that we did have, and that was confirmed by the government, then we still have sweatshops
Was it
somewhere
New York?
too.
I thought it was San
New York,
Francisco.
there was a case out of San Francisco like that, but New York had, I think it was 3 of them. Um, you know, this is a tragedy, and this falls into Kamala Harris's lap because she was the border czar. I know they tried to say that her job now was like a liaison to the Central American countries and that she wasn't exactly in charge of the border, yada, yada, yada. And my favorite thing that they're twisting on this now is, well, look at the numbers down now. She must have done a good job. The numbers have dropped. No, the numbers dropped because Biden reinstituted a lot of the Trump fucking procedures and the executive orders.
Yeah.
That's why the numbers are down. He could have done this at any fucking point. At any fucking point, he could have done that. But he looked, and it was when the polls went to shit that he suddenly took action. But it's too late. You have 32,000 children. This is, I'll tell you right now, we have a lot of failures as a nation. There's been a lot of people who weren't protected through the course of time that should have been. This is as big of a tragedy as any of those.
Well, the one that makes me really pissed off with the whole shit with our government is, we're always hearing how they want to do executive actions to take away our constitutional rights.
Yep.
I'm going to write executive action and I'm going to ban this. I'm going to ban that. It was so easy for him to write an executive order to shut the border down. What do we hear? Congress needs to act. Congress needs to act.
Yeah. And I agree. Congress does need to act. We need to have the border fixed. But here's the problem. Neither side wants that albatross because you need to make a tremendous overhaul, and anybody who votes for it is absolutely going to have that hung around their neck in an election, one way or the other.
But it's also then what are they going to bitch about come election
But
time?
it's their exactly. They can't bitch about anything. And it is their job. Don't get me wrong. They should have the intestinal fortitude to go out.
I agree.
Yeah. This is where politicians are weak and bullshit artists. By and large. Oh God, that was dude, I was so angry about that. I mean, I still am. Obviously, you can see the kind of emotion I have with it. But I just if you've ever
That's
been
why I wanted you
involved,
to talk about it because I couldn't have done it any justice.
if you've ever been involved with a child being rescued from kidnapping, which I have been, I've seen the child who has been rescued or recovered, however you want to look at it. and you see just in that one singular instance, I've seen it a few times, even with a child that just gets lost at like an event, um, or you look at the horror on their face when they're first recovered, how scared they are. Children are children, even older children. Now you think of these kids who are thousands of miles away from anything that they know. Their parents are not with them. They're in this strange place, and who knows? Who knows what's happening to them? Are all 32,000 in harm's way? Probably not.
What are the
Are the
chances that
vast
they are?
very high.
Yeah.
Very high. Absolutely very high. Look, and these NGOs, it's so amazing. If you've ever been a foster parent, which I have, I fostered both my
Mhm.
kids before we adopted them. The amount of background checks and clearance, regular check-ins, the social worker coming on a regular basis to make sure the child, the house, and everything is still safe, right up through with the adoption background check, and they check everything. They call people. I had it's the same as the law enforcement backgrounds I've gone through, honestly, and it should be rightfully so. Before you hand a child off to somebody, you need to know everything you can, and we still have failures where children get put into bad situations, even with all those procedures in place. These NGOs are not doing that at all. So, not to that extent. So we don't know where these kids are being housed.
Yeah.
This is a failure, and I don't know why this specific this absolute specific, topic isn't so much bigger. So much bigger,
It
because it's
should be, but
huge.
media doesn't want to touch it.
The children are the groups that we should be protecting more than anybody else. And they are not. They created a situation where these children were brought here. They created this situation.
Yep.
There is a reason why, when it was announced that Biden won, the caravan started from South America. They created it.
Yep. This is. There are so many things wrong with the illegal immigration that's going on in our country, and it's
Yep.
not just all. Okay, I don't want illegal immigrants here. It's not that. If you want to come here the proper way. Welcome you with
Mhm.
open arms. But there's also a health issue that we have going on in this country because of the illegal immigration. When these people are coming here illegally, they're not getting the vaccines that they're supposed to get. People don't realize that we're immune to certain things because
Yes.
we've been exposed to it. We're immune to it.
Yep.
They have immunity to other diseases and stuff. And when they come here, we could be spreading these diseases amongst each other. And a lot of these, they haven't been around in decades. Doctors don't know how to treat them.
Well, and we don't necessarily have the medicines on hand for it,
Yeah.
right? So I forget. I'm trying to find it. Fox News posted that there was like another virus going around that was from South America. Um, and I saw that on I'm trying to go through X now because I saw that on X earlier today. Um, but it's true. And this is why when you go to certain parts of the world, they make you get certain inoculations
Yep.
before you go. And if you come back and you get certain illnesses or present for certain illnesses, when you're getting your clinical done at the ER, they ask you if you've traveled
Yep.
overseas and where you've traveled, who you've interacted with. There is a reason. But okay, let's say we happily have all these immunities. Let's go a step further with immigration. Hospitals overcrowding, school districts overcrowding. You just had in Massachusetts, I think it was Situate, the city said, "Hey, we need those buses for the migrants, the illegal migrants, so we're not gonna be able to bus your kids to school."
Yep.
Um, you have law enforcement. You look at the crime in New York City right now, the crime and the rape that's going through the roof. Um, it affects more, and if you look at this in a non-emotional way about immigration itself, if you look at this in a very literal way, if it's not healthy. I mean, first of all, we were always warned that a country without borders is no longer a country. That's just a given,
Yep.
100% hands down. Look at the UK, look at France, all this other stuff. They're losing their society, and it's okay as a nation to maintain your society. It's okay as a nation to maintain your identity. Immigrants have been coming here for years to be Americans, not to bring their country here. And that doesn't mean that they don't bring certain cultural ideologies with them. You have the festivals, right? I remember growing up,
Yeah.
we had the Irish festivals, you had the
Oh,
Italian festivals, Dominican festivals, whatever. But there's a difference
went down to
between,
Chambersburg, Trenton, the Italian
yeah,
festival every year, and it was huge.
and that doesn't mean that you can't celebrate your heritage and bring
No.
some of that into your life. But what you cannot do is give up the heritage that you have. Um, and that is the problem that we're having in this country. Um, you know,
Usually,
it's
when you're coming to this country, is because there's something wrong in your country. So you come here for a better life. Now they're coming here to destroy our way of life.
well, they're bringing the same bullshit that they were trying.
Yep.
It's literally when Democrats move to red states and start to ruin it.
Yep.
It's the exact same thing. They're coming here and doing the same bullshit that they were doing there. And look, nobody likes that Trump said this, but Trump's 100% right. They're emptying out their prisons and sending them north. They're ending out their insane asylums and sending them north. They're paying these people to come north.
What did
There's
Cuba
no doubt.
do years ago? Opened their prisons and said, "Get on the boats and get the hell out of here and go over to the United States."
Yep. And we have to stop that. We
Yeah.
we we can't allow that. Now, the trade-off to that is we need a better legal immigration system that
Yes.
we just don't have right now. Um, and I don't think that people potentially becoming citizens in this country. Um, this was a quote that was just sent to me on X. I'm going to read this completely without context, and you judge as you make as you want before I go back to what I was saying. Mayonnaise is throat lube for food.
Hmm.
Anywho,
Fat man thoughts of the day.
no, somebody sent it to me on X, and I just thought that was really funny. You do with that with what you want. Yeah, I'm not going to judge you for it. But you look at immigration, and you look at the legal aspect. We have to be able to expedite better. We have to be able to, and look. Part of the thing with immigration is we can pick and choose who we want to come in.
Yep.
And oftentimes we are getting the best and the brightest in a lot of these other countries because they're able to have the means to get here and do it legally. I'm all for legal immigration. I know plenty of people who have immigrated to this country legally who
Yep.
are more American than half of these leftist lunatics out there. I I know someone personally who was immigrated from he was in the South Vietnamese army when Hanoi fell. He immigrated to America. You've never seen somebody celebrate the 4th of July more now that he's an American citizen than this guy. Why? Because he left a really, really bad place and came to a place where he was able to be successful, and he was. His family was able to be safe, and all of the freedoms that he earned when he became a citizen, he loves and respects. And he
Yep.
understands what the foundation of this country is about and why it is. And the idea, the only people I'll say this right now, the only people that are coming here and repeating this and bringing their country's worst parts with them are the shitbags we don't want here.
Yep. Well, here's a question for you. Okay, we got illegals coming into the country. They're willing to break our laws to better their life, and we're pretty much letting them get away with it. What other laws will they be willing to break to better their lives?
Well, you look at the amount of rapes that are going up. You look at the guy in Let's see, Philadelphia. I think he was arrested yesterday with a gun firing randomly at cars and people, and he is from Central America. I forget if it was which country he was from in Central America. They originally said he was a Mexican illegal immigrant, but they updated it to Central America. It was either San Salvador or El Salvador, and I'm not sure which one off the top of my head. Um, you look at the amount of takeover robberies, if you will, that's going on in New York City, all the scooter crimes that are going on in New York City, which, by the way, if you've ever gone to any Central American, Brazil, South American, you see how they use those scooters tactically
Yep.
to commit crimes and get away and be able to get through traffic and everything else. They're doing that here as well. Um, don't believe Do not believe the big cities crime reports, because when you have an Alvin Bragg or a Gascon
Not
or
reporting or not prosecuting.
not prosecuting, and as soon as they dismiss a case, it doesn't go into the crime stat.
Yep.
It doesn't happen. And that's a totally different argument, because
Right.
the only person the victim's being victimized twice in those situations, which drives me absolutely insane. You're being victimized by a shitbag and you're being victimized by the government, all in the same swing.
I was warned one
So
thing when I moved into this area in Florida. We have maybe not as bad anymore, but we had a high illegal immigration here because of the strawberry fields that were here for picking strawberries.
Mhm.
And I was told, don't get in arguments with them, because they will slit your throat faster than anything, because they know worst that's going to happen. They're going to get deported and they'll come right back. They
Right.
don't care. And I've seen it at the bars where a kid got his throat slit because he got in an argument with them, and they were like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, and a lot of the criminals who come here from overseas, especially from south of the border, they have a plan to get back over the border and disappear before law enforcement. If they're involved in legit criminal activity, that plan's already in place. They have people, they have a path. They're going to get over that border, stay there for about 6 months, come over with a different name, and unless they've been well. And this brings us back to the failings that were released by ICE recently. The whistleblowers and Catherine Herridge did a whole report on X, who were saying that ICE was not doing the mandatory DNA swabs of people entering the country so we could track them. They just weren't doing it. Weren't doing it. That was one of the ways that we were able to track everybody. So if they did commit crimes while they were here and flee, we could at least catch them trying to come back over. It's just it, I don't understand. I do. I understand that these people are globalists. They don't believe in borders. They're part of they believe in the WHO. They believe all of that shit that,
Who?
if World Health, yeah. Who? They're the ones that show up with what's the other one with the finances there with the Swedish weird guy?
Oh, WEC, isn't it?
Yeah,
World
WEC,
Economics.
WEF, World Economic Forum, with the guy who looks like Dr. Evil, and it's ironic that he's in charge. I forget his name, France, some other German fucking name, Hans Gruber or whatever it is.
Damn,
But
we
they're
got to
all
throw
part of
him
that.
off the building.
Yes, I look, I'm for it. They're the same people that they're the same people who believe that we shouldn't have borders, that money's not really real. You'll eat the bugs. These are all the same people. Bill Gates is one of those people. Bill Gates believes in all that shit.
Yep.
It's just I don't understand how we got here. I understand the old saying of, good times lead to weak men lead to hard times lead to strong men. I understand we're in the weak men part of society. I did not think I did not think it would be this bad. I really didn't. I've never I mean, I've been on this planet almost 50 years. You've been on this planet almost 70. Do you remember it ever being this bad?
Really? Like we've talked before. Not until, yeah, I'm ignoring your comment. I can see your smirk on your face. I heard it. Damn whippersnapper. Till Obama. Obama just
Yeah.
everything flipped. We went to a reverso world.
Everything changed because emotions were allowed to be run unchecked. And I said this: the country changed. The country changed when there was the incident in Florida where the kid was killed. I can't remember his name off the top. Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
There was a Trayvon Martin incident where NBC changed the 911 call to make it sound worse than it was. They withheld information that the news was, because you got to remember, the internet isn't what it is now. It was still kind of getting going, right? We weren't getting our information from the internet. Most of our information was still coming from mainstream media. So NBC edited a 911 call, and Barack Obama came out and said Trayvon could have been my son. The guy who shot and killed him, they tried to say was a white guy, even though he was Hispanic. And that started it. And then you had the Professor Gates, the beer summit thing, right? Under the guise of we're trying to end racism, they stoked racism. They stoked, and it kept going and going and going. And then people started making money off of it. The race hustlers came out. And I know people say it all the time, Shaun, you're white, you shouldn't be talking about stuff like this, but it's true. The race hustlers came out.
I hate that. Oh, you're a guy. You can't talk about abortion. You're white. You can't talk about racism.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I can talk about anything I want about it.
Right. It's America. I still have the First Amendment right to say it. And what people were taught was your skin color matters more than what's in your heart. It was being taught in school. You look at with the LGBTQ community right now. You look at with the BLM movement. You look at all these groups where it's, oh, we're individuals. We're not Americans. We're this, we're that. Oh, but we're also Americans when I want to be, but most of the time. And if you don't like that, you're racist. You're a homophobe. You're this. You're that. You're a transphobe. I see things all the time where it's like, well, if you won't date a trans woman who is a guy dressed as a woman with a penis, then you're a transphobe. And it's like, well, I don't like dudes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't be one. I don't care, but that does not make me a transphobe. That makes me straight.
Yeah. But it's also my preference. I have a right to have a preference of what I want to do and not do.
Which is why I love seeing groups like Gays Against Groomers, where they're like, hey, this is not okay. This is not who we are. Leave children the fuck alone.
Yep. And that's where really the trans community got the world of shit onto them, is when they started involving the children. When it was just them, it was, hey, go do what you want. Two consenting adults, not breaking any laws. Go have fun. Do what you want. But when you start involving the kids, nope.
And yeah, that's the problem. But one of the things that the weak men have led to, and Obama was a weak man in policy, or created weak men through his policies, is you were starting to see conservatives from all walks of life, ethnic backgrounds, race, creed, starting to come together. You're starting to see people who, and it's been a slow switch back. The pendulum is starting to swing back. I truly believe the other way. And I love it. What's funny is, one of the things that we saw, and I know we only got a couple minutes left here. It's 2 hours. We'll wrap it up. But one of the things that I love that we saw when RFK came out with Trump and campaigned and endorsed Trump is all of his supporters and all the Trump supporters on Twitter had a humongous love fest for it's still going on. How many of them are saying, hey, I didn't realize it was going to be this awesome. I'm really glad to be here with you. I love you guys, like blah, 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 blah. And that is driving leftists absolutely insane.
But how many people have you seen on Twitter going, you know what, I stopped listening to mainstream media and I started actually looking into stuff, and guess what? I'm not a Democrat anymore because I don't believe that shit that they're pushing, and it was all a lie. I mean, you have Kamala Harris, Harry Balls. I mean, Harris Walls. I saw that on Twitter today, saying Harris Walls sounds like Harry's balls.
I just saw it actually like 4 minutes ago.
But I don't think they put a truth out there. Everything's been a lie, or they've edited videos to produce their point, which that's not what the interview was about. There's been no truth coming out of their campaign. Everything's been a manufactured lie. We're going to go into a store and buy Doritos, but before we go there, we got to kick all the customers out there and put actors in there as customers.
Oh, we're going to have a restaurant. We're going to go eat dinner in this restaurant, but the same thing. People who were sitting were told to leave halfway through their meal.
Yeah. And what do you see with Trump going in there? I'll buy everybody's dinner. Everybody sit down. Let's have fun.
Yeah, they hate the fact that Trump doesn't mind being rich. Now, the other thing too is nobody talks about how much money Trump lost by being president and how much he's still losing. That's neither here nor there. He's still successful, and he still does stuff like that all the time, where he's like, "Oh, I'll buy everyone's meal." I mean, he's infamous for doing that.
There's just stories that did someone he was broke down on the side of the road, and someone drove by and picked him up and drove him to the town, and he paid the guy's mortgage off. Don't tell anybody. I don't want anybody knowing I'm doing this stuff. He didn't want the notoriety, but he didn't mind helping.
Yep, and I think, I think that is. We all knew, and I say this about Trump all the time. We all know that guy in life who is super nice and doesn't want anyone to know it because he knows that people will try to take advantage of it. And I think that's Donald Trump. I've said that for a long time. Look, this has been a blast.
Yep.
It's 8:00. It's been 2 hours. I'm really happy. Maybe we'll start doing this weekly.
Yeah, we'll see.
This is a great crossover show. It's fun to have a producer. I'll make sure next week I'll give you a list of video clips that I want to have ready for the show. Sound bites.
I'd be a bitch, boy.
I know.
Well, in all seriousness, though, you could put the videos easily. You hit the present, and
I just gotta find it. Yeah, I know. I just gotta do the legwork. I don't do that shit anymore. Joe, I appreciate this.
No problem,
appreciate you so
I
much.
appreciate you doing this because I know it was something you're hesitant to doing again.
It is. I posted it on Twitter earlier. It seems
I saw.
You just keep trying to get that hook into the mouth, man.
You threw me under the bus. And if you tell the truth, this was your idea because you said it the other day. You were thinking about doing it.
I said I was thinking about doing it. You're the one who called a meeting about it. Look, as always, SHR. Everyone knows SHR was my baby for years. It still will always hold a special place in my heart, as is broadcasting. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate being here. I appreciate all the people on Rumble. I am on. You can look me up at Sackhead Shaun or 2 Against Tyranny on Twitter if you want to find me there. Like and subscribe, please. At Jersey Joe Talks on X.
Or just Reverb Common Sense.
Yep, you just search Reverb Common Sense and it pops right up. I know YouTube's still there. I know there's Rumbles there. It's all there. You can find it if you're looking for it. shrmedia.com. It's still a website. It's still active. I pay for it. I don't have access to it, but I pay for it. I couldn't tell you how to post there to save my life right now. Maybe that'll be next week's issue. And if you do find me on X, I have been writing articles here and there, just a couple, but I'm starting to write again. Anyone knows me from my SHR days. I used to write quite a bit for the website. So, and other websites. I've been on the Black Sphere. I've been on quite a few websites. So please give me a follow, give me a like, and if you hate the show, come tell me about it, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. Joe, thank you, sir.
No problem. Like I say, like me, love me, hate me, want me to get a raise, want me to get fired. Just jump on in and make comments. All right, everybody. Till next time. I'll be on Friday night with the Reverb Common Sense show at 9:00. Well, everybody knows where it is. Peace.
See ya.